What do Falcons do? We rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general, the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, the Golden Hard Dog and a lifelong sports fan. Coming back to you today, guys, we are 1 week away from the draft. We will have already been through the first round this time next week. We'll be on to rounds 2 and 3, but I have not put out a mock draft yet this year. I've talked about guys that we could take in the first round, guys that might be there. I wanted to do a little quick exercise. I'm going to do 2 mock drafts for all 7 rounds for the Falcons, and I'm going to do something different with both of them. The first one I'm going to say is the chalk one, where we take a edge rusher and go from there. I am going to have 0 trades, though we know that there will be probably a trade at some point. The Falcons tend to make a ton of moves on day 2 to try and move up or move back. This time, I do expect that the Falcons, depending on what happens with the wide receivers and quarterbacks, could be in a position to trade to a quarterback-needy team, such as Las Vegas, Denver, one of those guys in here, or even potentially the Vikings. I don't know that a lot of these teams have capital that would be equivalent to the number 8 overall pick to give this year. If that happens, it would probably be Las Vegas, most likely, just because you're still dealing with a lot of capital being lost from Denver for the Russell trade. You're still dealing with issues with the Vikings, where they only have 2 first-round picks and then don't pick again for a long time. So the Raiders seem like the most logical choice there, but we'll see what happens with the real draft. Let's jump into it with the chalk pick being, we are going to say that we take Dallas Turner overall, number 8 overall, and then we jump down, and at that point, we still need defensive line. We still need corner. We still need a few things here, and I would say we still need a wide receiver as well. The way this draft has fallen, though, Michael Penix Jr. is still available in the 2nd round, and that's a real possibility. I think there will be 4 or 5 quarterbacks that go in the first round, definitely 4, and 5 is kind of a question mark. So here's the question. Do we go ahead and take Michael Penix and have him sit behind Kirk Cousins for at least 3 years, wasting most of his rookie deal? Or do we potentially look at taking another position here? So some guys that are available in this draft, you have a wide receiver, Roman Wilson from Michigan. You have tight end, Jatavion Sanders. You have Javon Bullard at safety. You have Braden Fisk at defensive interior. So some other positions of need for the Falcons for sure. And honestly, looking at it, I'm a little bit of a homer here. I know that Bullard is a great player, but I also know that we do need safety depth. I am a full believer in Jesse Bates. I think he's the best safety in the game right now, but we don't have a great player after that. Richie Grant is not it. I am looking for us to move on from him after this year. Even if he has a great year, I would not sign him. Similar to Caleb McGarry, I would not sign him for a big long-term deal, just because I don't really have faith that he's going to be great for the rest of his career. But Javon Bullard, I know is good. He's raw, but he's a second-round talent. Let's go ahead and take him at safety in the 2nd round. Then we jump into the 3rd round, where we have 2 picks quickly, fairly close back-to-back. Guys that are here, you have Spencer Rattler at quarterback. You have Devontae Walker. You have Javon Baker out of UCF. A lot of wide receivers that are still here. You have an edge rusher in Xavier Thomas from Clemson that's still here. You have safety Kalen Bullock out of USC. So those are the types of guys that are falling in mocks this late. And then there's a ton of running backs here as well. You got guys like Trey Benson, Jalen Wright, Bucky Irving, Ray Davis is still here, Marshawn Lloyd. So this is where we've had some really heavy halfbacks going in earlier positions in previous drafts. Now you're seeing them fall into the 3rd and 4th round here. So Falcons don't really need a running back other than to build some depth there. We'll see what happens. I am going to say we either take a quarterback or we take a wide receiver here. I am going to say that we get Spencer Rattler. I do like him to sit behind somebody for a while, and I think he's somebody, even if he's sitting, he's not expected to be this immediate starter, but he has a much higher ceiling than Desmond Ridder ever did as a third-round pick. So let's go ahead and take Spencer Rattler and see what's available. You still have Javon Baker. You still have a few other guys. And as far as just what's available, I'm going to go ahead and say we take a wide receiver here. So just because we do need to fill out that room a little bit, we've got guys like Johnny Wilson out of Florida State here. You've got, like I said already, Javon Baker. As far as the measurables go between these two, and I'm going to go with one or the other just because they're here, and this is kind of where people rank them. I can't say that I've done any major looking at either one of them. But just kind of looking at their measurables, Johnny Wilson is a freaking massive human being at 6'7", and I think that can translate dramatically into the NFL as a huge outside wide receiver. He had some really good games this year against tough opponents, including LSU and Florida. So I do believe that he would be a solid pick. So let's just say Johnny Wilson comes to Atlanta and joins us. Then we move on to the fourth round. We're picked 109 in the fourth round. This is kind of where we just start throwing flyers and see what's available. Guys like Blake Watson as a halfback out of Memphis is still here at this point. Not necessarily the greatest guy in the world here, just kind of trying to find anything on him that might be worthwhile. I can't even find, unfortunately, PFF does not have his stats available here. There's a center in Hunter Nourzad from Penn State. The Penn State guys who might find this are going to probably kill us. I don't think you can ever go wrong with taking a defensive interior piece because you always need depth. This is a place where we've found guys like Taquan Graham before. Kind of this late, we found Grady Jarrett in the 5th round, if I remember correctly. So I am going to say we go Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State for defensive interior. We still need a corner, which we haven't addressed, and it just has not really fallen for us here. And that's going to be where I talk about in the second draft. But let's go ahead and say that we are going to, in the 5th round, at pick 143 overall. There's a bunch of linebackers here. There's some edge rushers. There's some wide receivers. Will Shipley out of Clemson is still available here as a halfback. I like having some depth at the halfback position, so I am just going to say that might be what we end up doing. There's another guy here, Miles Harden. He's a corner. I have no idea who this team is. I do not recognize SD with a bear paw or a dog paw in the middle. I don't recognize that at all. Who is this? South Dakota Coyotes. Yeah, I don't know how well he's actually played. It looks like he played against, they played an opening game this season against Missouri, and he was not particularly great, so I'm going to pass on him. DJ James is another guy here from Auburn, has had some really good games for Auburn in the past at corner. He looks like predominantly lines up as outside corner. He's not a slot guy, but we do need depth there. Because I trust the SEC, because I do like that he's been graded fairly high in college several years in a row, I am going to go ahead and say that we take him. Let me go back and find him because this thing fell down a little bit. But we're going to take DJ James in the 5th round here. It looks like he's got a much higher ADP, so he's probably going to be gone. But, I think if we could get him in the 5th, that would be a huge steal, very similar to Clark Phillips the 3rd last year. Then we're looking at your 6th round pick at 187. Not going to lie, who the heck cares here? Let's just go. Let's pick a linebacker. Let's go Darius Mwassau out of UCLA just because he's kind of there. Then we have another pick, 197. I don't know. I'm going to go for average draft pick here, and I'm going to say we take Josh Newton out of TCU, who has a very big differential in his average draft position and what PFF ranks him. So I'm just going to go for that for corner. I'm not going to go pretty deep in this. And I'm going to say we may look at backup offensive linemen for our final pick. Oh, no, that was our final pick. I thought we had a 200 somewhere, but we actually do not. That was our last pick. That's my bad, y'all. I didn't realize that we didn't have a pick in the 200s. I legitimately thought we had a 7th rounder somewhere in there. So that's my bad on that one. But anyways, that ends up being a B-plus graded draft. They don't like the Javon Bullard pick in the 2nd round. We end up waiting and getting corner very, very late. in this draft just because we're going kind of best player available, and corner really takes a steep nosedive after the first round. In the second round, and they just really were not available where we were drafting. So I can certainly see us trading to get some of the guys. But again, the first draft, which I think is a much more chalky draft, because I do think that we're going to end up getting an edge rusher to start. It would probably be Dallas Turner. We could trade back and get somebody like Latu or Verse, and I think that would give us more options to get a corner in the early part of the draft if we were to trade back with somebody. Particularly a Minnesota might be great, though I don't think they're willing to move up with both of their first-round picks. But anyways, Dallas Turner, Javon Bullard, safety out of Georgia, Spencer Rattler as a project quarterback in the third round, because after that there aren't any more that I really like seeing on the board. Johnny Wilson, a freaking huge wide receiver out of Florida State. Michael Hall Jr. to shore up defensive interior. DJ James, corner. Darius Wassau out of UCLA at linebacker in the sixth round. And then Josh Newton also at the tail end of the sixth round at corner. So, excuse me, it's a little early when I'm doing this. That's the first draft. Let's go a different direction with draft number 2. We're going to put it in the exact same settings, 7 rounds, which for the Falcons is 6. We're going with mostly where the public versus PFF board is. We're going with less care for positional value. We're having teams just over the midway point draft for needs and less randomness overall. So let's jump in and see where we're at here. Falcons picking at 8. Guys that are available here that are not edge rushers. You have Brock Bowers at tight end. You have Cooper DeJean as cornerback number 1. You have Quinyon Mitchell as corner number 1 or 2 here. I am going to go ahead with this draft. I want to see what happens. What are we able to do at edge in the second round if we take a corner at this position? Because we do need a corner if Clark Phillips III is not it. And there's still some room to be proven there. Let's just say we take Quinyon Mitchell, who a lot of people see as the best corner in this draft out of Toledo. We're going to go with Quinyon, and let's see what happens. I forget, there's another corner that I feel like. Terrion Arnold is also good here. I remember him being out of Alabama. He's also solid, but Quinyon has the best grades overall. Let's go with Quinyon Mitchell. Excuse me. And let's see what happens the remainder of the draft. If we take Quinyon in the second round, now obviously we are looking probably at some sort of defensive pick here. You don't have any true edge rushers that fall here. But in this draft, I do not think this will actually happen, but you do have Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. both falling in the second round in this draft. You still have guys like Braden Fisk at defensive interior, which might be the pick to go with. You have Javon Bullard again. I'm not going to go with that pick, though, since we went corner with pick number 1. I don't love what's available here. There is Chris Braswell and Jonah Ellis at edge, but they are projected to be much further back, like probably another 10 picks back. In the draft, Chris Braswell is probably the best of those just because he has solid production at Alabama where he played tough opponents that are all probably going to be in the NFL. So I like him better, but I just don't love anything available here. Wide receiver, you even at this one had a follow-up. You have Jalen Polk, who is amazing, and I do like him a lot. So let's go with Jalen Polk as a wide receiver out of Washington. There's been a lot of praise as a hidden gem for him, so he could end up being solid, and we do need another receiver in the room. Let's go Jalen Polk at wide receiver. So we have now gone corner and wide receiver. Coming back around, you still have Spencer Rattler in the third round. I'm not going to take a quarterback. I'm going to say we pass on that this year. I don't love what I'm seeing, though, here. You have edge rusher Xavier Thomas out of Clemson, which is still available here. There's not a lot of edge. You have Jalix Hunt, I guess. I don't know what team he's from. I don't recognize that emblem. And you have Javon Solomon out of Troy. We still need an edge rusher. We have 2 picks here. I just don't love any of this. You got some halfbacks that are pretty good here. I feel like the Falcons would probably trade out of this or trade up if this is what was available. But because I said no trade, we need either safety or edge here. That's what we need, and I don't see anything else that I would be comfortable taking because we're pretty good at linebacker, so I don't think we really need that. I would honestly, if we're avoiding wide receiver and we're avoiding corner here, I'm going to go Xavier Thomas, and I hate this pick, but as a development edge rusher, and then I'm going to come back around at safety, I think, and take Kalen Bullock. Let me see if there's nobody else available here. You've got another corner in Kyrie Jackson that could be good, and it never hurts to have too many corners, but you did take one first overall. I don't love that here. Cooper Beebe at guard is available. I'm trying to look at offensive linemen that might be here. I don't love any of this. Braylon Trice has been an interesting guy. I'm going to say we take two edge rushers here and go with Braylon Trice out of Washington. We need edge rushers. It's not going to hurt to have too many in the room, so let's just go ahead and take some because some of our guys are about to be out of contracts anyway. Then we come to the fourth round. Michael Pratt is the only noteworthy quarterback available here. You have some corners. You have one edge rusher in Brennan Jackson. We're not really looking there anymore. Tyke Smith out of Georgia at safety. I know I'm a homer on this, but Tyke has had some really good games, particularly this last year. He was one of the heroes of the South Carolina game. He was a great player in the Ole Miss game. He has had some really, really strong showings, even against solid competition. And because of that, I am going to take him at safety here. We still need some defensive interior help, I think. And, hey, what did you know? Dwayne Carter out of Duke, who is probably going to be gone. His average draft position is 112 right now, but we're at pick 143. He's available here. He's had a really decent few years at Duke, so I do like him here. He is 305 pounds at 6'3", so solid defensive player here. Let's go with him to fill out the defensive interior, and then we're going to jump into the 6th round. So that's our 5th round pick. Now we're going to jump into the 6th round, and again, this is kind of like just take your pick of what's available, see what you like here. Let's go with Isaac Guerendo out of Louisville for halfback to fill out some depth there as a 6th round running back. And then let's see here. You've got another corner or safety here in like Dwight McLaughlin out of Arkansas. You've got Trey Taylor out of Air Force for safety. You have some tight ends. I just don't think we need it. You got a few more safety options here. Let's just say we take another corner or just potentially a special teams guy. Dwight McLaughlin, we'll take him. So this draft, the last one was a B-plus draft. This draft I think is going to be bad. I don't feel like this is good. But we're going to need to trade back if we're looking at corner. Overall, this draft ended up being a B, so a little bit lesser grade. Again, I don't love this draft, but that's kind of what you're looking at available. And again, the draft falls different for everybody, but this one would be Quinion Mitchell, corner, to really just have a solid corner too. It'd be Jalen Polk at wide receiver, who is a hidden gem of a wide receiver. He kind of got overshadowed by Roma Dunze, but he was great when he was healthy. We would take two edges in the 3rd round, Xavier Thomas and Braylon Trice. Tyke Smith at safety in the 4th round. Dwayne Carter as a guy who just happened to fall to us from Duke in the 5th round. And then a halfback from Louisville and another corner just for depth purposes out of Arkansas. I don't love this. I don't really love either draft beyond the first couple of rounds, so it just really depends. And this will certainly not be what ends up happening. But I do think you're very likely looking, if we stay at 8, you're looking at corner or you're looking at edge. And I think we would be the first team to take a defensive player off the board if we stay. With that in mind, with these particular picks, I do think that we should try to trade back, get another day 2 pick. I don't know if that would help us, but maybe build up a little draft capital and maybe trade back into the 1st round towards the end of it to maybe get a guy. If we have 2 2nd-round picks, we could use one or both to trade into the 1st round again to get that special edge rusher like Latu if he's still available at like pick number 20, 21, somewhere in there. I don't think he'll be available there. Could even get Jared Verse there potentially, depending on what happens. But that's what I got for you. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. We are 1 week away from the draft. I will be doing a live stream of the draft when we get to it for the 1st round at least. I don't know if I'll do the entire 1st round because some of us have to work, and I usually get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. They don't typically end the draft until much, much later. But we will see what happens. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And as always, rise up.